like this is old home week coming back. Oh my gosh, I see, can I say old friends? Oh, I've aged a little bit. It's been about 5 years, but I've been a long-term Carlsbad Chamber of Commerce member. Need to come back, I'm thinking. What do you think? Yes, yes. I'm excited about that. I travel a lot, but I am here to talk to you about a new way to network. Some of it's fundamentals, but I know just from talking to you guys today, it sounds like there's some real veterans in the room that know how to get it done. So net shifting, and I'm going to kind of get into what it is, but it's kind of the old thing of networking. And the first thing I want to talk to you about is when you ask the question, how important is knowing people to the success of what you do? Critical? Important? Give me a nod. I want to shout it out. Is it really critical? Yeah. Totally. So, one of the things to look at is when you think of networking, how effective and how productive are your networking results? Because this is what I hear a lot of times from people is that, I think if we went around the room, every single one of us would have an opinion about networking. Would you agree? Love it, don't like it. I mean, I hear from professionals all the time, they say they love networking. It's the best thing ever since sliced bread. And on the same token, on the other hand, and with just lining it up, I'll hear people who will tell me, it's like, you know what, it doesn't work, it's time consuming, I never get any business. Nobody in here says that, right? This is why you're in the chamber, correct? Because you're making connections and getting it done. But depending on your kind of like mindset of how you see networking, obviously that determines your results. But I'm hoping that I'm going to give you a different way to kind of like converse with people, do some different things than what I know everyone in here is a professional, but I hope you're going to take maybe 1 or 2 nuggets away with my presentation. The thing to think about this morning is that I want you to stop networking. What? What? Like that that E-Trade commercial, the baby that goes, what? Right? It kind of goes back like that. I want you to stop networking. And I want to hear, does anybody have any pushback on that? What? What am I thinking? Why would you stop networking, right? Because networking, I mean, to me, that's almost like a bad word. I want to kind of flip things back about 20 years, so I'm going to date myself. But 20 years ago, when networking really started, back in the early 90s, it was like you could go to an event, you could, kind of like exchange business cards, you could tell people who you are and what you do, and it seemed to me back then, because not everybody was networking, it wasn't so, let's just say, aged and perfected, that you usually got business from that. And if you flip it forward 20 years, would you say that networking's got a little more difficult? Yes? Oh, come on, honest, has it? Yeah. Or is it easier than it used to be? See, I'm making you guys think this morning. Is it a little harder? Raise your hand if it's a little harder. Because you're dealing with a lot more people now. It's like people have heard the same things. They're seeing the same people that do the same things. So it is a little bit more work. Add that to the idea that we've got social media on top of it. And you've got people who sit in their home offices and they're thinking that, Facebook's all that. I'm sorry, there's social media folks in here? Yes, because it's important and it's really critical, but at the same time, I'm also seeing a lot of professionals that are sitting in their offices and thinking, you know what, I can network just sitting in front of my computer at my home office. You still got to get out and meet people, and that's the part that I'm going to talk about is the face-to-face, nose-to-nose, the networking that you do with other people to be able to find productive results. So with that, I'm hoping you might shift your thinking just a little bit this morning, and I want your mindset to be different about networking. I want you to think in terms of how can you, in terms of how you meet people face to face. I'm not talking about the social media part. How can you shift your thinking a little bit, your mindset, and how can you craft opportunity just based on knowing other people? How can you be able to find some of those productive results based on who you know? So there's a couple things I want to talk to you about. I'm going to give you some tips. I'm a real fast talker. I've had a lot of coffee this morning, so you'll have to forgive me. I hit a Starbucks on the way, and I've had at least 3 at my table. So forgive me. Somebody that goes like this and wants to slow me down a little bit, I will do my best. But you can shout out some things as we're talking. But I want you to first think, and this is interesting, my little lady up here, but this is a harsh reality. Nobody cares what you do. When you're networking, it's like, just kind of visualize. You're in this room, and I know you guys are pros, but you're in this room and you're talking to each other, and you start saying, it's like, here's what I do, here's what I'm all about, here's what I do as a service, these are the products I offer. And the sad part is that whoever's listening to you, They don't care. They really don't care. And I don't mean to hurt anybody's feelings, because I know there's wonderful professionals in here. But the number one rule of networking is realize that nobody cares what you do. And I hope you can get over that and deal with it for the day. But really, it's like, I know you're all good at what you do, but nobody cares. So that's rule number one. And I think I've just blown everybody's balloon this morning. I'm so sorry about that. The next thing to realize is that you've got to adopt what I call a relationship strategy. And what I mean by a relationship and networking strategy is you've got to give some thought to organizing and categorizing those business relationships. Because I want to tell you what I see as I trek around the country. I go in-house to companies, I talk to sales teams, I deal with very veteran networkers, I deal with newbies and people that are just coming into the kind of networking place and area. And one of the things that I always hear is that people will go out and network, and it's like, you're always thinking about, getting cards and exchanging cards and giving information and meeting new people. But would you agree that it tends to be kind of a bit messy when you go back to your office and you start taking out the business cards out of your pocket, right? Or you go to for girls, we take our purses and we take out all those business cards, and you're like, wow, how do you sift through those and determine which of those cards and the people that you've met are a higher priority than the ones that maybe are a lower priority? And those are some of the tips I want to give you, is that you've got to look at it that it's all about quality, not necessarily quantity, in terms of the cards and the people that you meet. There are some people, and I didn't see anybody this morning because I was here early, but all of you as pros, I saw a lot of interaction, a lot of talking, but I know many of you have been to events where you meet someone and you start talking, and all of a sudden they're like shoving their stuff at you. Do you know what I'm talking about? Here's my postcard, here's my brochure, here's our stuff. Aren't we great? Do business with me. And you're thinking, no, not going to happen, right? So your kind of like networking strategy is that you need to have an organized system and process, just like you do for getting new business. So here's some things to think about, is you've got to be intentional when you network. And what I mean by being intentional and being strategic is that it used to be back in the early 90s, again, dating myself, I'm so sorry, but back in the early 90s, being intentional was that you could go anywhere and network. You could go to a Chamber of Commerce meeting, you could go to a professional trade association, you could go to a networking group, and you were going to be able to find people that you'd find value from. Today, if you flip it forward, what I'm talking to you about being intentional is I want you to think about where you network. And this is the part that, again, if you want better results from networking, one of the key pieces is to be strategic and start thinking about who attends what events, even within the chamber. This is one of the most fabulous events, the First Friday breakfast, and I know I was a religious bug doing my tabletop with my baskets back in the day. Where's Tom? Tom and I would fight over who could do the baskets the best. Tom Buari. He'd say he was better, I'd say I was better, right, Tom? Yeah. Who was better? I want to know.
You were better.
Whoa! That dude's a giver. Yeah, you can say that now, my man. Okay. It was friendly competition. We called each other friendlies, right? At any rate, one of the things you want to think about is being intentional, is to think about all the other things that are going on within the chamber to network with. And the other piece that's being intentional is to think about who attends what different events. Like, one of the things I hear from sales professionals is they will tell me that they want to be able to go and target C-level professionals, CEOs, owners of companies, CFOs. If you're B2B, one of the things to look at is where do and when do C-level professionals come out. And one that I always was always amazed at is that people will come to the First Friday breakfast, and we get all of us as business professionals that come to that. We have a whole diverse cross-section. But if you think about some of the committees, the annual, right, the state of the city, that's the award and the awards program, it's like different people come out for those events. And so being intentional and being strategic is to think of those events as a different way to be able to make different connections. It's not better, it's just different. And part of being intentional is for you to think about, where do you network now? We all get into auto mode, but you need to be thinking about maybe one chamber of commerce, and I'm thinking, what chamber? Carlsbad. That would be good. One leads group, that's a good thing, because you want to be able to refer business to each other and have them refer business to you. I always recommend that most professionals belong to one or two different trade associations that are specific maybe to your target market based on what you do. And then there's a variety of other things. If you're business to consumer, you might think about different community events, community activities that you get involved in. But the idea is you need to kind of have a better plan to get better results in networking and not just kind of do what I call run amok networking. And believe me, it gets carried on quite a bit by a lot of professionals that have a lot of experience, but you want to think of where you network. Just like you do in your plan to be able to bring in new business, you want to be intentional about where you network. The next thing, and this is harsh again, right? Nobody cares about what you do. I'm so sorry. But you also need to stop telling and stop selling. You know, I didn't see it here, but I will tell you that it's like when I network and I see people that are talking and telling about who they are and what they do. At our table this morning, it was very uncomfortable for me to be able to kind of, you know, talk about, it's like, what do you do, who you are, because my instinct and what really works well in networking is for you to ask questions. You know, hey, what's your name? My name's Michelle. Good morning, what do you do? And then from what do you do, it's like, you know, are you a chamber member? It's like, what brought you here? What's your name, by the way?
Steve Landon.
Hi, Steve. Does everybody know you?
Yeah.
Because you're looking at me very critically right now, and I don't like it. So just checking. Okay, just making sure. So smile. This is good. A smile is always good. And you're going to bust me later. I'm so sorry about that. But in your situation, if we were having a conversation, what I would go on with is, what do you do? Who are you? And then quickly, it's like if he says, well, what do you do, Michelle? It's like I would answer it, but I would turn the question back on him again. Because the reason that stop telling and stop selling is so important when you're networking is you're trying to find out and uncover what the other person is and whether they might be a potential customer, and at the same time whether they're going to be a potential referral source for you. So all about networking is never telling and never selling. If you ever catch yourself, if you start hearing yourself say I, me, we, our, it's like you got issues. You need to turn it around and focus on the other party. And we all know this, but so many people just focus on blah, blah, blah. They tell each other what they do. And at the end, you really haven't done what you need to do, which is in networking, or net shifting as I call it. Ask other people questions, because then you can determine, and you have the power, folks, then to be able to follow up and say, you know what, I think we're a good match on some things. And I'll talk about that in a few minutes. The next question to answer yourself in networking, another tough question, but ask yourself, what's your brand like? And I'm not talking about your lovely logo. I'm not talking about your corporate colors. What I'm talking about when I say what's brand you like, it means that you have to have the little conversation with yourself, to yourself, and about yourself, and answer the question, what do people think of you? What is your reputation in business? Because if you want to get better results in networking, you want to be able to say to yourself, it's like, what do people think of you? Do they think of you as a trusted professional? Do they think of you as a go-to person that they can get information, advice, connections, that you're a resource? Do you do what you say you're going to do? You know, do you act as if you're a professional? I say as if, right? I want to hear a laugh there. There was a joke. Come on, I want to hear the joke. All right. So do you do all those things that give you the professional brand to be able to be the person that folks will refer to you and that people will do business with you because they've met you? And that's a hard question to have, because I've seen some people that I've worked with where it's like they're knowledgeable about what they do, but they are like flakes, and it's like their reputation is that they're known for somebody that doesn't follow through, somebody that doesn't get back to people, and we all have that challenge today. Trust me, nobody's perfect on it, but the idea is for you to always raise the bar and better your best. So brand you. If you want better results in networking, which is the kind of relationship part, you've got to ask yourself what people think of you and what your reputation is. Do you love this one? I'm sorry. Curious George. I don't have kids, but I love kid stuff. So at any rate, Be Curious George is another part of networking, okay? And what that means is not that you're going to be kind of like Curious George where he got in trouble, but Curious George would always be curious about other people, asking questions, right? Kind of like getting into a little bit of trouble. But what I'm talking about is being Curious George is you need to be curious about other people, who they are, what they do, and how they do it. And that's conversational. And so many people will tell me as a professional in networking, they'll say, you know, Michelle, this stuff is just chit chat. I hate chit chat. I don't want to talk to somebody about the weather. I don't want to hear what the traffic was like in getting here. I don't want to hear that somebody's having a bad morning, that they're tired, that they're excited, whatever it is. But this is what makes networking work, is because it is kind of that chit chat, But again, you need to be a little more strategic to ask questions so that you can get a pulse, if you haven't met someone, is to get a sense of who they are. And that's the curiosity part, is that if you're so focused on you telling people who you are and what you do, you miss the real advantage, which is to find out about somebody else, and you might be able to be a resource or a connector for them. And I just want to know from around the room, is everybody getting what I'm saying this morning? Come on, tell me. Yeah. Ooh, and applause are always welcome for a speaker. So go ahead, come on, give me a little. Okay, that's good. I love it. And I'll just keep asking for that all day long. So yeah, okay, you can stop now. Thank you though. What's your name, by the way? Alan. I like you, Alan. Thank you for that. All right, next thing. We know this, right? Relationships. In order to develop relationships, it takes time. You know, think of, in my kind of like book, I always think of, you know, how do you feed and water the relationships that you know? You know, part of the follow-up in networking is for you to think that one-time transactions don't cut it. You know, you meet somebody at a chamber event, or you go, and my favorite is you go have coffee, you have lunch with somebody because you followed up. This is what I hear from a lot of business professionals, is they'll say, well, I sat down with the person, we exchanged niceties, we had a cup of coffee, we had lunch, my personal favorite, cocktails. They had cocktails together, and it's like, then nothing happened. So they're like, we got together, but now nothing. I mean, what's with that, right? Well, the answer is that it doesn't happen in one instance. In fact, it doesn't happen maybe in 2 or 3 instances. You've got to consider, and the mindset again is that you know that in order to find value, in order to create opportunity, in order to build a partnership or relationship or get business from people, it's going to take you a period of time. And if you're patient with this, I want to give you an example from networking. And I was an avid networker here at the Carlsbad Chamber, number of other chambers as well, number of other professional associations, and I was always dragging my baskets around town. Tom, do we know this? Yeah, dragging those baskets around. And so we would set up a tabletop. And I would get people who would say to me after, it's like we did a tabletop and I was meeting and networking with people, and they would say, well, how did that go? Was it productive? Did it produce results for you? And my answer, after being in business for a period of time, was always, I will tell you in 9 or 12 months. It's not going to happen in the first month, probably won't happen in the second month, but by 6 or 9 months, or even to the 12th month, I can tell you very specifically how my exhibiting at a chamber event or where I was networking worked, because I kept track of how I got business. And every business professional should do this, so that you know what part of your networking is working. If a group isn't working, do you need to shift what you do, or do you need to maybe change where you're networking at? So those are some things to consider, but relationships take a period of time to nurture and grow and develop, and for you to determine if there's potential or there's results. Somebody said earlier about the know, like, trust feature for business. You know, if somebody knows you, but they don't like you, gonna get business from them? No. If somebody knows you and they don't trust you, same kind of thing. So there is a combination here that there's a likability factor, there's a trust factor, and people need to know you, but also to keep you top of mind. Because when somebody thinks of using your services or products, you might have networked with someone, you might know them, but it may not be then that there's a potential for you to step up and be of service. It might come later. So the know, like, trust feature, just like the relationship building, comes over time, and you need to know that somebody might know you, but if they don't like you, they ain't going to do business with you. And if they don't trust you, it still ain't going to happen. So those two features need to be there, and there's things that you can do to kind of build that bond. And I will talk about them the next time I come back and speak. Oh, I'm just giving you guys a joke. Okay, so the next thing is to think 90-10. And this one is kind of just a visual, is that in networking, we're so apt to be able to tell people who we are and what we do, is I want you to change the visual and shift your thinking, and it should be 90-10. 90% of the time, you should be listening to somebody else, asking questions. And again, who are you? What do you do? What brought you here today? Are you a member? Have you been here a long time? My personal favorite at any networking event, because so many people will say, oh my gosh, I'm so scared to walk up to people. It's like, I love to walk up to people I don't know. It took me a while to get to this point, but to be able to walk up and go, hi, can I just introduce myself and say hi? I've never had anybody say, well, no. You know, so you want, and if they did, I would be buzzing out the door, right? So if you let people know it's your first time, if you don't know a lot of people, I have found personally that a lot of people will really step up and they will bring you into their little network. Because I've heard people say, oh, that place is so cliquey. Never the Carlsbad Chamber, but at different trade associations, I've heard this, where people say, it's like, people will not interact with me. Well, that's because you're not working the room, and that's part of your job in networking. And by the way, Michelle, with Assessment Specialist, is going around and asking for you guys' business cards, because I'm going to do 2 door prizes of 2 of my books for you guys this morning. So the 90-10 factor is, ask yourself, are you listening 90% of the time? And 10% of the time should be you talking. It's a real change in what we've all been believing as far as networking, because you need to listen with the 2 ears, talk less with that 1 mouth, okay? So everybody smile on that one. The last thing I want to wrap up on, I mean, not as far as my time, but it's like I want to kind of hit where I think is the biggest opportunity in networking. Most people and most professionals will look at networking as a way to be able to find direct business. Direct business is great, but I'm telling you guys, the biggest, did I say big? Biggest opportunity about networking is to build referral relationships. And what I mean by referral relationships is people that you could partner with that will bring you value and that you bring value to them. That's where networking today has such opportunity, and I don't see people take advantage of that enough, because most of us are focused. We want to work the room, we want to meet people that are going to be our potential direct customers, and yet you're focused really to find value. And I'm going to give you a visual. How many of you in this room are here trying to sell products or services? You're trying to sell something. Come on, raise your hands high and be proud. Come on, be honest. Is there anybody in here not trying to sell something as far as products or services? Wait for it. Oh, baloney. Michelle raises her hand. I'm like, right, yeah. She sells. Trust me, she sells. But you want to be thinking that everybody in this room is trying to pitch somebody on something, right? That's a visual. So you're going like this. You're like hitting each other, going, here's what I do, here's how great I am, here's what we do, here's how great we are, and thinking like little bunnies hitting heads against each other that there's going to be opportunity found. Yet, if your networking and your process and how you network would change, that you think more of how you can sift through to find people that might be high potential referral partners for you, that's the gift, folks, that keeps on giving. Because if you find somebody that can have your back, be a good strategic partner, and somebody who could potentially bring you value and you bring value to them, that, my friends, is the real $1 million opportunity to networking. And as a speaker, I just want to share with you, one of the things I know for sure is that every single one of you listening to me, all of you want me to stop because you want to start networking and you want to find people that you can network with again. I get it. But 10% of what I talk about is what you're going to leave with this morning. So as a good consultant is, I'm going to tell you this is the 10% you should listen to, okay? All the rest of it, you can just forget about it and kind of go on to what you were thinking of before. So here's some tips to build partnerships and build strategic alliances, because this part is where, again, it can bring value to you over and over again from your networking. You've got to think like targeted. This is important because not anybody will be a strategic alliance for you. Not anybody can refer to you. Do you agree? Just nod your head. Say, yes, Michelle. Good. So based on that, one of the things you want to do from your networking is work the room and meet people that are new that you don't know. But, and this is, again, I'm loving everybody in the room, but your goal is to have a conversation and move on. Is not to be stuck talking to the same person forever. That's bad. And I see people do that all the time. So your job when you come into a new place to be able to network, wherever it is, even if you know people, you know, they talk about don't sit by the same person, don't network with the same person. There's a reason for that, is you're here to make new connections. So when you network, you want to try to ask questions when you get introduced and meet people. You know, what do you do? Who do you work with? What brought you here? I mean, the niceties, the chit chat. But don't be confused, because you are being strategic to find out, does this other party work with the same people you do? Do they serve the same type of customer? Are they business to business versus business to consumer, whether you're B2C or B2B? And you know, business to consumer is you sell to individuals. Businesses to business is that you sell to companies and organizations. So you want to really work the room to find people that are like targeted. The next piece, and this one again, I hate to give the bad news, but not everyone will get along with you. Not everyone will you love and trust and work with, okay? Think of school. Remember school? You like certain people, they liked you. That's exactly what networking is like. So you've got, yeah, here's like, yes. So you've got to think like-minded. And one of the like-minded pieces is good fit, great chemistry, just a good synergy. You know when you network that you meet somebody and you're like, oh man, we connected. I could do a more visual, but I won't because I'm too old and I'm feeling it's early in the morning. But good chemistry and kind of that mindset that you feel like, ooh, we got a connection here is really essential to building strategic alliances. That's a key piece. If you feel like there's just something there that you didn't click, move on, okay? Don't try to force it. The other thing about building strategic alliances, and again, this is kind of the upfront part in kind of being strategic, is you've got to make sure you're looking for the right professionals, and are you networking at the places that you're going to find strategic alliances. At a chamber event and at this First Friday breakfast, one of the coolest things about it is that you can meet a variety of different professionals and probably look for people that are going to be part of your strategic team. So a strategic team, let's say you're a commercial banker. I saw that there were some commercial bankers in here. How many bankers we got? And raise your hand. Hi. Okay, so as a banker, and I'm an ex-banker recovering, went through 5 mergers. I got sick of it. 91 I left. Have you gone through a few mergers? Yeah. Yeah. Sucks, doesn't it? Oh, I'm sorry. We're videotaping that. Oops. So sorry. It stinks. I'll say that. All right. So on the targeted alliances, if you're a commercial banker, you want to think about those different types of professions that make sense for you to align with. As a commercial lender, and I'm using this as an example, what's your first name again? Paula, what bank are you at? Should everybody do business with your bank? Look at that. I love it. Okay. So as a commercial banker, you might surround yourself with a commercial real estate broker. You might also work with a payroll company provider, somebody that does kind of like commercial real estate where they buy and sell and do properties and tenant improvements. You might deal with somebody else who's a business consultant. I mean, there's probably 8 to 10 different categories that you want to focus on that you are searching for when you network. And here's the other cool part is when you network and people say, how can I support you or what can I do? And you're at these tables and you're talking about what you do. Another way to get more value in networking is to be able to say not necessarily what you do and what you're looking for as a customer, but for you to say, I'm also looking for these type of power partners. I'm looking for other good CPAs to align with because I'm a good referral partner for them. This will change your networking as well because all of a sudden, the threat, right, or the pressure of somebody doing business with you goes away. Most people in this room, I think you guys will nod, you want to support and help other chamber members. Am I right? This is one huge way to do that because if you don't have enough CPAs coming here, enough commercial bankers, which you have one in the room, you want to be able to put out at your table and say, these are the types of professionals I look to network with. If you know of anybody, I'd love a personal introduction. That can change your networking as well. And I will tell you again, you don't want to have hundreds of these because the key thing with these types of professionals is you want to think that there's different, I kind of call it all relationships are not created equal. And when you're trying to build strategic alliances, you want to make sure that you're kind of rating people, because this is another way to keep track and find value in your business, is for you to network and determine, gosh, the A type of referral partner is somebody that has tried to refer you and that you've actually closed business from it. A B relationship might be someone who has tried and attempted to refer you business, but it didn't pan out. And a C type of referral partner is somebody kind of like a client relationship where they might have attempted, but it didn't work out or they have high potential to do so. So you want to be thinking that your time, because how many of you guys in here, I'm just seeing with the show of hands, who has more time on their hands than what they can do? Anybody today? Aren't we all doing more with less? I mean, we're all going crazy, right? People are getting 3 hours of sleep. They're working 24/7. We're in a digital world. We never shut down. So you want to be thinking you've got to, through your networking, kind of prioritize who you're working with and the time that you spend with them by focusing in, just like you would your high producing clients, you want to be thinking with referral partners to do the same thing. So your time is going to be spent with your A referral partners, and you've got to designate them as such. I wrote a book that I have available today, Sales Job. Okay, I wrote a book that is available today that if any of you are interested, it shows you how to categorize your relationships. Because that's, again, one of the things that I see from professionals, and I used to do at the corporate basket when I ran it, was that we would focus our time on the top dog relationships. The others, we had a more sequential kind of follow-up process, and it really worked for us. I mean, we would see a bump in one-time clients that would do business with us again because about every 6 months, we would generate a report and we would follow up with the one-shot wonders and have them do business with us again. The same thing needs to happen with your networking, is you need to focus on the people that are the highest producers for you because that's where you need to spend your time. And the others, you need to have a systematic follow-up and keep in touch program so that you're going to produce value out of that. Okay, am I saying enough about follow-up? I mean, most people, and I will say if I went around the room, most of y'all will give up before you follow up. Anybody want to say, yeah, that's me? Sure. Okay, we got a couple of hands going, yeah, sure. Because we're all focused on getting new business. We're like little bugs with shiny lights, right? We kind of go to the light, go to the light. And we really want to focus in on what's king. And what's king is you've got to have a follow-up system. My recommended rule of thumb is that A, relationships, clients, prospects, and referral relationships, this is across the board, you want to be talking to people monthly, quarterly, or semi-annually for the other types of relationships. And again, you know, there's more information in my book. Last thing I want to say is you've got to keep track of who you know. This is so important because it makes no sense to network if you don't keep track of who you know. This is typically what I see when I go to clients' offices. Okay, you go network, you have the lovely little business cards in piles with little rubber bands around them, and you have them all over your workstation or they're hidden in little corners. They get dust on them, right? These business cards and these people cannot provide value to you if you don't do some sort of communication and follow-up. And the way you do that, oh, the big sales job, is that if any of you are interested in having my book, I mean, I am so excited to be here today. This was my fun to talk to you. I hope I gave you guys some value. But what I want to say is, number one, make sure you're being strategic. Number two, it ain't about you. I want you to take that away today. And all the follow-up is based on who you know and the priority of those people that are your most important relationships. With that, I'm done. I'd love to do a door prize. You guys tell me when that's good. So thank you guys for having me here. Michelle's going to go around and do it, and I'll do it before the end if you let me. Thanks, you guys. Thanks. Thank you very much. Peter.